This model here is a cross-section of the vertebral column containing a cross-section of the spinal cord. And if you look here, this is a gray matter and this is a white matter. The gray is unmyelinated, mainly unmyelinated, and this is a white matter. If you look at the gray matter, you see a horn here, and here's one, and here is another one. This will be the dorsal horn, and this will be the lateral horn, and this will be the ventral horn. Dorsal horn is the same as posterior horn. Ventral is the same as anterior. So 3 horns from the gray matter, and the white matter is column. So remember, the gray is 3 horns. The white is 3 columns or funiculi. This will be the posterior column. This will be the anterior column. This will be the lateral column of the white matter. What's separating those two here into 2 mirror image or 2 similar structure parts, those 2 halves, is posteriorly you have this shallow depression here, which is this part here, and this is called the posterior sulcus. And over here you see a fissure. This is a deep separation here. This is the anterior, P safe. P posterior sulcus, anterior fissure, P safe. So surrounding the spinal cord will be this intimate layer that's totally adherent to the spinal cord. This will be the pia. The second layer, which is this layer here, this will be the arachnoid, and the last one is this one here, which is called the dura. And this will bring us to the spaces. This is the epidural space because it's outside to the dura, epidural space. And what you see, the yellow here is the fat, and these are blood vessels. But when you see the fat, know that this is the epidural space, and this is where they inject the epidural anesthesia for delivery, to numb the mom during delivery. So this is the epidural space. The second space is the tiny space here, which is this space. It's very tiny, which is between the dura and the arachnoid, and this is called the subdural space. Again, this is the arachnoid, and this is the pia. So this space here will be the subarachnoid space. And the subarachnoid space is the space that contains the CSF. So if you insert the needle like this, you can take a sample from here, which is the subarachnoid space. If you go to the other parts here, this is called the gray commissure, which is a commissure that's holding those 3 horns to those 3 horns here, which is the gray commissure. It's a commissure that's gray matter, and right in the middle, this is the central canal of the spinal cord. This will be the white commissure. So the commissure that's holding the whites is white commissure. The commissure that's holding the gray, 2 sides of the gray, this will be the gray commissure. In the middle of the gray commissure, this will be the central canal of the spinal cord. Again, how to tell the sides, if this is dorsal or ventral. This is dorsal. Why? Because you see this is a spinous process, and since it's bifid, you can tell that this is coming from the cervical region because the spinous process is dividing. It's bifid spine. So this side is dorsal, and this side is ventral. That's number 1. Number 2, you see this fissure here. The fissure is anterior, and the sulcus is posterior. Number 3, if you look at the roots, we know that the spinal nerve come from roots, 2 roots, and the spinal nerve itself will be here, and then will be given the branch, and the branches are called rami. This one here is coming from the dorsal horn of the gray matter, and this will be the dorsal root. This root here is coming from the anterior or ventral, so this will be the ventral root. Of course, the dorsal root is carrying sensation going in, and the ventral is carrying motor command going out. As you see here, if you follow the ventral, there is no ganglia here. It's going all the way until it's joined by the dorsal after the ganglia. If you follow the ganglia, you see, if you follow, the dorsal root, so see the root is going all the way. It will enlarge here. This is a dorsal root ganglia. So dorsal root ganglia, which contain the bodies of the sensory nerve of the afferent. Right after that, the joining of those 2 parts, this part here, from my finger here to this part. This part is the spinal nerve. As you see, it's too short. It's right after joining the 2 roots and just before giving the rami. Okay, so this here is the spinal nerve proper, spinal nerve itself. It's going to give you rami, and ramus in English means branch. This is the dorsal ramus and this is the ventral ramus. How did I know that this is the dorsal and this is a ventral? Number one, because this side is all whole dorsal, but even if you don't have the bone or anything else, you can tell by the size. The dorsal ramus is smaller and the ventral is like 3, 4, 5 times as large, because the dorsal will supply only the dorsum of the body, which is the back of the body only, while the ventral would supply lateral and anterior and everything else. These structures here are communication rami, or the gray ramus. This is communicating the ventral ramus with this structure here. And this structure, if you look it to the side like this is the sympathetic chain. Sympathetic chain, remember if you look here again, you see the pink, yellow. Here it is. This is the pink, which is the ganglia, and yellow, just a cut section, should go like this. So like pink, yellow, pink, yellow, pink, yellow, and so on. It should be going up, but since we have a section, so this is a sympathetic chain, this is a ganglia, and this is the rest of the chain. This artery here is a vertebral artery. It's an artery that's going within the bodies of or not the bodies, within the vertebra or in between, that's going up all the way until it enter the skull, and this is for supplying the structures in the brain and in the head. The other thing here is, if you look closer here or here, you can see this. It's a tiny structure here. This is called the denticulate ligament. The denticulate ligament comes from the pia to the dura, and it goes all the way to the dura down here. This is the part that you can see here, and this is the denticulate ligament. You will see it between the two roots, and it's pair. One on this side, and the other one is here. This structure here. The meninges, again, the meninges are pia, P-A-D, from inside out. Pia, arachnoid, and dura. P-A-D, the pad that's covering the spinal cord. Pia, this is arachnoid, and this is dura. Spaces, this is the epidural that contain the fat. This is the dura mater here. So this is a space outside the dura mater. This tiny space here, this one, this is a subdural space. It's under the dura, between the dura and the arachnoid. And finally, this space here is the subarachnoid space where the CSF is located. And that's it for this cut section, or cross section of the spinal cord.